I get asked a lot from various people, what do you need to do to become an electrician? I would like to explain how you get in the trades as a whole and how state-run apprenticeship programs work, how you get paid, and how schooling works. I'm going to mostly discuss becoming an electrician in Oregon. Most of the other trades have similar formats. I'm also going to give information that is relevant to the other 49 states, U.S. territories, and Canada. Let's get started. Let's begin with the advantages of apprenticeship. No student debt. Start making good money day one. I'll go into more specific detail later. Earn a license you can employ anywhere in the United States and abroad, and most licenses are AI-proof. Next, I'm going to show you how to locate information about various apprenticeship programs. They're run by the state. Each state has a labor department that oversees apprenticeship programs. Here is a website that lists all 50 states' labor departments. I will include links to all of the websites I show you in the description. This is a website called Remote Laws, and they have a list of all 50 states and their labor departments. It includes the phone number and a link to their website. They all have slightly different names, but they function the same. Here is the information for Oregon. We call it BOLI for short. You can see that BOLI oversees all types of employee and employee issues, but we're going to focus on apprenticeship. There is a link at the top of apprenticeship. Click on that. Then click on Find an Apprenticeship Program. This will take you to a page that lists all of the Oregon apprenticeship opportunities. Believe it or not, there's 111 different apprenticeship opportunities in the state of Oregon. I am going to show you the page for Inside Electrician, which is what I'm considered, because that's what I'm the most familiar with. Once you click on View Details, you will see a basic job description, expected working conditions, and the minimum qualifications for that particular job. For an inside electrician, the minimum qualifications are high school diploma and/or GED, minimum of 1 year of high school algebra with a grade of C or better, and an equivalent of college algebra qualification with a grade C or better also. You must be 18 years old at the time you are accepted into the program. When you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see a list of different programs throughout the state. Union, non-union, what city, and the average wage. So for example, up here at the very top, it says NECA IBEW Electrical JATC. The IBEW stands for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, otherwise known as the union. The one that I went through is the Area 1 Inside Electrical Non-Union JATC underneath it. Then you can click on a View Detail to find out more information about the particular program, as well as the contact information and wage information. You can click on that document at the very bottom, which is page 33, giving you an even more depth detail about the program selection process, minimum qualifications for entry, and required work processes for job training and classroom courses. So what does actual apprenticeship training look like? You work during the day, and then you go to school at night. Classroom days and times depends on which program you're in. So it's 1 or 2 nights a week in the evening for 4 years, and of course, like traditional college, summers off. The non-union electrical program takes 4 years and 8,000 work hours total. That's 2,000 hours per year, and 576 school hours, which works out to be 144 hours per year. Your courses are taken through a community college overseen by the state of Oregon, so you end up just a few credits short, 2 to 3 classes of your 2-year undergraduate associate's degree. 8,000 work hours must be in certain categories. These are the different categories that you must work in to qualify for a general journeyman's license. One of the very best things about apprenticeship program is that you get a raise every 6 months, mandatory. As long as you turn in your progress reports and meet the hour requirements, your boss can't hold back a pay raise. Talked about progress reports. Let's take a look at one of these. So here, as you can see, this is an example of one that I had about 100 years ago when I was an apprentice, because I've been doing this 31 years now. And they change them all the time, but this is pretty much what they look like. So over here in column A on the far left-hand side, you're going to see all of these categories they want you to have. And then we discussed just a bit ago the number of hours you're supposed to have in each one. So the way this is going to work is you're going to keep an eye on how many hours you need in each one of these as an apprentice, and then you're going to fill them in. So on column B here, it says hours brought forward. So let's just assume for the sake of this conversation that this progress report is the month of February. You would bring your January hours forward and set them there in the column of B for what you did last month. Then on the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 13th, all the way through, you're going to put, I did 1 hour of underground work, I did a little bit of pipe work, I did some residential work, whatever it was you did throughout the month. You're going to have an hour here and 2 hours there, and you're going to fill it in for this month. And then you're going to carry your hours all the way over to column C. And you're going to do this for 4 years until you reach 8,000 hours minimum so that you can take your journeyman's exam. Every 6 months, the electrical board is going to review your progress reports and make sure you have all your class time in, and then you are eligible for what is referred to as a re-rate. When you first start out as an apprentice, you'll start out as a first-term apprentice for the first 6 months. After 6 months, you'll get your review from the board, you got your hours in, you got your work time in, then you'll be eligible to get a re-rate. Currently, this is the 2026 Area 1 wage sheet. As you can see here, this chart is based off down at the bottom where it says journeyman scale. The current journeyman scale for the Portland metro area is $53.86 for non-union. Your first period is based on 40% of that. So as you can see, the hourly rate for period 1 is $21.54. That's where you would start out day 1. Even if you didn't know anything about electrical, that's where you would start as an apprentice. Obviously, the average wage today in America is $15 an hour, depending on where you're at. So starting out at $21.54 and you've never done electrical work before is not a bad place to be. 6 months after that of work and training, you'll be eligible for another re-rate. It goes up to $26.93, and that'll complete the end of your first year. Period 3 is the beginning of your second year of school. And as you can see there, it's $29.62, $32.32, $35.01, $37.70, $40.40, $43.09. And then if you pass your journeyman's exam, then you'll end up at least, if not more than, $53.86. Now, most employers will pay $1 over the scale that you see here. The reason is there's a whole bunch of employers, and I can go to work wherever I want to go to work, and I'm trying to choose who do I want to work for. A lot of shops, to be competitive, will say, if you come to work here, I'll give you $1 over scale. That doesn't sound bad, so that's fairly common. All of this is just to qualify for your minimum so that you can take your journeyman exam. So the difference between an apprentice and a journeyman: an apprentice must work with a journeyman at all times. A journeyman can work by himself. I'm going to include in the list below a link to the various trades and what they make. The National Association of Home Builders has a list of highest paid construction jobs, and there'll be a link in the description. Now that you have your journeyman's license, we can talk about reciprocity. This is from Jade Learning. It's a continuing education company, because when you have your journeyman's license, you need to maintain 8 hours a year of continuing education. And in Oregon, ours renew every 3 years, so you need to make sure you have your 24 hours in. So I was familiar with this site, and I happened to notice that they had a nice little chart here that shows you the various states that, for example, in Oregon, here's all your green states that show that you have some reciprocity with other states, and then there's the few gray ones here that for example, in Arizona, if you have a license in Arizona, you're not going to reciprocate your license to another state without testing, because Arizona doesn't have that type of a agreement, but all these green states do. So for example, let's go down to Oregon, since we've been talking about Oregon. So as you can see, as I'm scrolling down through here, we have all of these different states, and it gives you an idea who you can reciprocate with. So here's Oregon. So here in Oregon, according to this chart, and these charts do change all the time, so you have to double check and make sure at the time you see these charts that the information is correct for your state. But currently it's showing that Arkansas, Idaho, Maine, Montana, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming, if you have an Oregon journeyman's license, you could reciprocate your license and move to one of these states and perform work there as an electrician by just reciprocating, meaning paying a nominal fee of a couple of $100 and some paperwork. They'll double check, make sure your apprenticeship was done in Oregon, you passed your exam in Oregon, that you have a current license in Oregon, and then they'll issue you one of these states by just filling out a form. So you don't necessarily have to do your apprenticeship over again and that sort of thing, because you've already got one through the state in which you tested. Now, for example, if you move up here a little bit, it says North Dakota. Now, for example, in the case of North Dakota, those are all of the states that you could be a journeyman in and reciprocate, but they also have another line there that's called master. So, for example, if you had a master's license in North Dakota and you wanted to go to Minnesota or South Dakota, then you could reciprocate your master's license to those states, which is pretty cool. A list of all the different types of work that an electrician can do, such as residential new, residential remodel, commercial new, commercial remodel. There's also industrial work such as sawmills, refineries, warehouses, that type of work. There's specialty, fire alarm, phone, TV, video camera surveillance, fiber optic, wind turbine, electric vehicle, as some examples. And then, of course, you can always, when you're done, go for advanced licenses such as a supervisor electrician, master electrician, electrical inspector, electrical contractor, or you can even be the chief electrical inspector for your state. In conclusion, hopefully I've given you enough information about apprenticeships so that you can look throughout your various states and get an idea of some things that you might want to do and how apprenticeship works. So hopefully this gave you some more additional information. This is Thomas with Classic Electric, and this is a wrap.